This video is a supplemental video to the Pickleball Therapy podcast. In this video, I'm going to be explaining some more about stress resistance and giving you a visual and a visual on the board as well to help you understand better the concept of stress resistance. There are two parts of stress that we talk about in this week's podcast. What I recommend is if you want to know go deep on the stress resistance and understanding the two parts of stress, go to our podcast, Pickleball Therapy. You'll find it on any podcast platform. You're looking for episode number 139. It has to do with stress resistance. The idea is that as a pickleball player, right, there's different ways of thinking about the game and thinking about yourself as a player. And what we did in this week's podcast is we broke it down by a concept of stress in the game. So when you're playing pickleball, you are both being subjected to stress and you are imparting stress. Think about the most obvious stressor is a slam, right? Pop-up, slam. That slam is a very stressful shot for the team receiving the slam. That's an extreme example of stress. But there's all sorts of stresses that are applied when you're playing pickleball. Your wide dink, your deep return of serve, things like that. So as a pickleball player, when you're out there playing pickleball, you have, see if we can get a quick paddle done there. That's not bad. You have your ability to resist stress, right? So this is your stress resistance. And then there's another aspect to it, which is your ability to impart stress, right? Your ability to give stress or deliver stress. You can think of stress imparting as like a banger, right? A banger is able to deliver a lot of stress to their opponents. They by banging, they go out there and put a lot of pressure on their opponents. They're able to impart a lot of stress. But sometimes they're not able to resist stress. And so what happens is when you get a banger situation, a unidimensional banger, meaning they can apply a lot of stress, and then they meet a player that can resist stress and also impart stress, banger's cooked, right? Nothing they can do about that. And so what we focus about in this week is we focus about stress resistance. We'll talk about imparting stress next week. I don't want you to think you need to go out there and start learning how to hit hard drives, or else you're not going to be a well-rounded, complete player, because there are other ways of imparting stress, which we'll deal with it next week. But what I want to focus on, and what we did focus on in the podcast, is stress resistance. What we mean by that is it's your ability to resist stress when you're out on the pickleball court. There's all sorts of stresses out on the pickleball court. There's the wind, there's the score, remembering it, there's tossing the ball when you're serving, there's all sorts of things that happen when you're playing. There's obviously slams, there's shots that are hit by your opponents, all sorts of stressors out there. And the question is, how well are you able to resist the stresses that are being applied to you when you're out on the pickleball court? Some of those stresses are actually self-inflicted. When your mind starts, wandering or going sideways on you, you start talking negatively to yourself. That's a stressor, right? And so if you succumb to any of those stresses, what happens? The rally ends, right? And again, if you want to get into more detail on exactly what that is, check out the podcast episode. But what I wanted to do is give you this visual here, so you start understanding that as a pickleball player, there's two sides to your game: your ability to resist stress and your ability to impart stress. And one way to think about it is when you're playing, as I mentioned, like with a serve. A serve doesn't seem stressful, right? Because just take the ball and I hit it into there. But there are stressors, right? I need to be able to control my toss, control my paddle, control the trajectory of my shot. I need to make the ball land in this rectangle over here, right, for it to be a valid serve. And so there are stressors that are applied to us in every shot, even the one that seems to be so simple, because every player, even the pro player, sometimes miss the shot. When they miss the shot, what happens? They succumb to the stress, right? Now, if you get your serve in and the returner knows what they're doing, they're going to hit it back. Now you have to deal with a third shot. So now there's additional stress imparted to you, right? How deep was the return of serve? What type of return of serve? Was it low and hard, high and floaty and deep? Where are they standing? Do you have space? Are they up here? All those are stressors, right? So the question is, how much can you resist stress? Because the more you can resist stress, the better able you are to not lose the rally. And the better able you are to not lose the rally, the more chances you have to ultimately perhaps win the rally, or let the other team lose the rally, right? Same effect to you. You end up on top on the rally. So think about the game more in terms of stress resistance, stress imparting, right? Your ability to impart stress and resist stress. That'll help you identify leaks in your game. And you're always looking on stress resistance. You're always looking for earlier in the rally. So, if you're at the first shot, if you're on one side, it's all out, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. If you're on the return side, it'd be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So find the shot where you're having trouble, stop there. So if you're having trouble, you're fine on the first, on your serve, but you're having trouble with the third, then you spend your time here, because this is where your game is breaking down. And unless you're able to fix that, it's going to be hard to get to the 5, the 7, the 9, etc. And the same on the return side. The same process where you're looking for the earliest moment that your game breaks down, not able to resist stress, and addressing that first. If you enjoyed this video and you enjoy this sort of content, this video is different than a traditional pickleball video where, we're out on the court showing you, okay, this is how you hit the ball and things like that. Here we're focusing more on this part, right, on the brain. We're trying to give you big picture items, right, let you see the framework of pickleball so you understand how the big game is constructed and the big picture of everything, so that then you can then apply your own mind to it, learning this, and then be able to apply these concepts and improve your game. If you enjoyed the video, again, like it and subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified of additional videos just like this. Check out the podcast, and if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you subscribe to that as well and rate and review it on your channel, whatever it is. In the meantime, work on your stress resistance. You'll feel much better when you're playing pickleball. Be well.